According to the latest report by IBM Security, data breaches are costing South Africans and business millions each year. Over the past 3 years, there's been an 8% increase in breaches. Joining us now is Deon, Geyser, Chief Executive Officer at Liquid Intelligence Technologies, South Africa. Deon, a very good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to join you.
Let's maybe just briefly, as we start this conversation, what do we talk about when we talk about data breaches?
Yeah, I think it's an important question, Kwena, because, if you look at the International Data Privacy Week that we recently actually held, data breaches ranges from, pure data breach where someone is trying to steal and take some of your data that you've been trying to store. Typical cybersecurity attack. It could be a password type of breach where people are trying to steal your personal information data. And at the end of the day, the reason why people are trying to access your data is that they want to sell that to malactors in the background, which of course want to use that against your business or sell that on to black markets, which then utilize that for malicious purposes. It's almost like in the South Africa context where people are trying to get into your home to steal your valuables, right? And your personal protection of your information actually is as important as, actually more important than trying to protect your own data and the valuables at your house.
Do we as South Africans, from an individual perspective, but also importantly to companies and businesses, take this kind of security serious? And do we have, I guess, the necessary know-how and technology to deal and defend ourselves? I think
you ask quite a number of important questions inside of that. So let me maybe answer those set of questions. Sure. In a couple of aspects. I think number one, there's a lot of technology out there that can support you in terms of defending yourself against security breaches or cybersecurity attacks. But then the second step is that doesn't really help you if your people or your employees or people in their personal capacity are not aware of the related incidences or potential threats out there. We need to remember that the people that is trying to steal your data is not necessarily sitting on the street just on the outside that you can see them. They may be coming from many other parts in the world that you don't see. And therefore, really important around this Data Privacy Week is around the issue of awareness, as you rightly say. Mm-hmm. Now, are we in South Africa at a level where people are really familiar with it? I think that the POPIA Act that recently have come aboard have raised the awareness around cybersecurity related threats. And why does, protection of personal information link to cybersecurity? It's linked to the fact that we need to protect our personal information, and not only the personal information of ourselves, but that of your employees or your customers and the base of people that you interact with or suppliers. And that then brings more and more the awareness of, well, what am I doing to protect that set of data? So I think the POPIA Act and regulations around that has improved the awareness around that, but I do think that as a market we have still a long way to go to educate broad-based people around the awareness of personal information and that of your people or your suppliers or your customers. And I think the threat that we are seeing globally increasing with the arrival of AI and deep fakes is just increasing that risk. We see globally an increase on what the impacts of, for example, deep fakes are doing, where people are pretending to be someone that they're not. Today we talk a lot about phishing emails and phishing WhatsApps, where people are pretending to be someone who they're not. But in the world of deep fake, that even is becoming images and people which you think you're speaking to someone on the other side, which but in actual fact you're not. And I think that really increases the amount of risk, and the risk increase for us will turn into financial losses. And that's why we, at our company, we've spent a lot of time around awareness of our staff, awareness of our people around, what are the related software updates that we can make with platforms that is out there, like Microsoft platforms. What are you doing with your device updates? What are you doing with regards to, password protection? And is our people aware about it? So cybersecurity training and, just generic cybersecurity awareness training, we make mandatory at our business, because the amount of risk that you have, every business has that. Whether that risk is, just paying a normal supplier and someone is trying to pretend that they a supplier, but you're paying money in the wrong bank account, or you think you're paying a salary to someone when they change bank account details, it could be a malicious act. So I think that, as I said, there's quite a lot inside of that. And I think to your point around that, we've 2.5 years ago launched a cybersecurity business unit actually in our business for that exact purpose, because our enterprise customers specifically is telling us, hey guys, we see an increase. There's a real demand out of it. If you talk about the ICT growth, not in terms of the impact of cybersecurity, but just the revenue growth of people spending money on cybersecurity, it's increasing 9 to 10% year on year. And is that enough? I think that the risk that we are seeing in the industries is just increasing.
Is technology moving a little bit too fast for us, Deon, to catch up with? I mean, as you're talking about AI and deep fakes and all those things, it almost sounds like this technology is just moving way too fast for us to catch up.
I think it's a very, very valid question. And that's exactly, coming back to this comment about who's the people that is really stealing from us. In South Africa, we've become quite well aware of malicious people walking down the street trying to break into your house or trying to break into your business. So therefore, we have a fidelity security guard and we put fidelity security people and cameras at your premises. How do we do that in the cyber world when the cyber malactor is maybe sitting in Europe somewhere or in China or out of the US or other parts of the world? And they're developing faster than what we can locally. So I think one thing that we are seeing is really this demand in the local industry of saying, guys, we need your support in order for us to understand firstly the risk, understand what we can do about that, and understand, therefore, what are the policies, procedures, and then finally technology that I can put in place. There's a lot of technology out there which everyone today uses, for example, Microsoft 365 if you have a Word or a PowerPoint application, and that comes embedded with a lot of security capabilities already. But people aren't using that, and people are exposing their passwords potentially to people they should not be exposing that to. So I think to your point, there is a lot of technology enhancement that is developing as the risk is increasing as well. But I don't think that people are well aware of those. And therefore, a big part of data privacy and Data Privacy Week is around the awareness of what is actually available and what are the policies, procedures, and capabilities one have to deploy in your business to protect yourself. Because unfortunately, you can't go and live in a security estate and think that you're free from this specific risk. You have to really make sure that your business and your individual data is protected.
Just finally then, very briefly, Deon, if you may, how then do we protect ourselves, especially as an individual? I mean, what would be key to making sure that my data is safe and secured?
That's a very valid question. Again, coming back to some of the practices of what we have, and it's very basic, right? But I think making sure that, number one, your software platforms that you are using is updated. Because typically, whether it's a device or whether it is a software update, for example, if I talk about a Microsoft application, those inherently come with security improvements, number one. Number two, be clear on the fact that phishing today in the form of emails, WhatsApps, messaging, it is a reality, and people are trying to take whatever form in order to get your personal information. We've recently had an incident where people are taking a picture of me on a WhatsApp logo, trying to get information from some of our employees, making as though it's me, and you really think that it's Deon sitting on the other side of that phone number. So people are going to a lot of extent to try and implicate that there's someone else, to personify you, almost like the deep fake example on video, right? So be aware about that it is real, and therefore the awareness component. And then thirdly is the issue of really making sure that you follow a form of a policy or process. When people come to you and say, hey, please change, for example, your bank account details or change your passwords, make sure it's coming from a trusted, reliable source. If you go into a banking website and you speak to your banks, they will tell you, hey, we will never phone you to ask you for your password details or for certain specific details. The reason they're asking you that or telling you that is because of the fact that there are real cases where people are implicating yourself, and their security checks actually forces them to not end up exposing your information to others. So it really is working within the process frameworks and trusting that, and being aware of the fact that people are trying to get your information to, at the end of the day, something like a housebreak, trying to steal your information and a lot more from you.
Deon, we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming through to speak to us.